I'm very tempted to just say, I'm not going to accept this sentence agreement. We'll go to trial. And if you're convicted of felony, you'll go to prison for the rest of your life. That means you'll die there. That's what I'm tempted to do.
What? Oh! What the? Alright guys, welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to be reacting to the craziest sentences that these kids were actually sentenced to, bro. Like, I don't even know how the hell you even get put in this position in your life, bro. On God, bro. But grab your snacks. Let's get right into this video.
I'm very tempted to just say, I'm not going to accept this sentence agreement. We'll go to trial. And if you're convicted of felony, you'll go to prison for the rest of your life. That means you'll die there.
What?
That's what I'm tempted to do.
What?
At 16, you knew not to keep pounding your fist on that pillow with that little baby's head there.
What?
That little boy can't be terrified.
I didn't mean to Austin. Actually, I really didn't.
That's so sad.
I really think I did that. I didn't mean to hurt him.
That's so sad. That's actually so sad.
A 14-year-old Philip Chisholm.
He is pure evil, and evil can never be rehabilitated.
True, I believe that.
This killer for the rest of his life.
A 9th grader who's in court for murdering his 24-year-old school math teacher, Colleen Ritzer, on October 22nd, 2013. Colleen was known for her dedication to her students, and on that fateful day, she had asked Chisholm to stay after school for additional lessons. Little did she know that her kindness would lead to a horrific end. Chisholm came prepared with a knife, a change of clothes, and gloves. He followed her into a restroom where he took her life. His brutality didn't stop there. He robbed, assaulted, and abused her. Afterward, he disposed of her lifeless body by placing it in a garbage bin and dragging it behind the school. In a futile attempt to cover up his crimes, Chisholm went into town and used Ritzard's credit card to buy a movie ticket. However, he was traced down and arrested by the police the next morning.
Dude, this guy
he
is
still
sick,
had Colleen's blood on his hands. While the magnitude of Chisholm's crimes is daunting, his courtroom behavior will leave you in disbelief. Philip Chisholm faced multiple charges, including murder, aggravated and armed robbery.
Is he black or Mexican?
Throughout the court proceedings, Chisholm displayed a shocking lack of remorse.
He actually assaulted her dead body. Dude, this guy is sick, bro. Like, what kind of thoughts you gotta have in your head to actually do some weird stuff like that, bro?
Even as the victim's father read his statement.
Killer knew exactly what he was doing and has never shown remorse.
His demeanor and actions demonstrated a complete disregard for the gravity of his crimes and the immeasurable pain he had inflicted on Colleen Ritzer's family, even in the face of a touching tribute by Colleen's brother.
Put this animal behind bars for the maximum possible sentence. Do not give this coward the opportunity to shatter another family's lives.
Amen.
Chisholm remained cold and unrepentant. His attorneys claimed that he was mentally unstable. That didn't work.
That's cap.
In February 2016.
Court will impose the mandatory life sentence for the murder of Colleen Ritzer and set a parole eligibility date of 25 years, the highest level our law allows.
However, while Chisholm's reaction could certainly be dismissed as an effect of a mental illness, the same can't be said for the case.
Who's this black guy?
Brandon Spencer, who allegedly started shooting at a crowded Halloween party
on
the campus of the University of Southern California.
That's why I don't be outside.
That's why I don't be outside. 4 individuals were injured in the shooting, but fortunately, there were no fatalities.
Amen. Oh, thank God.
That if you are so intent on killing someone that you're willing to shoot them and at the same time open fire into a crowd.
Following the shooting, Spencer was detained by the Los Angeles Police Department for questioning. A couple of days later, he was charged with 4 counts of attempted murder. The prosecution argued during the trial that the shooting was the result of an ongoing feud between Spencer and a rival gang member, noting that Spencer himself was a documented and well-known gang member.
I'm not a bad person, but I made mistakes. But I'm not just some gangbanger that she tried to portray me as.
Despite the horrifying nature of Spencer's offenses, his actions during the trial managed to shock everyone present. Throughout the trial, Spencer maintained his innocence, but the jury disagreed. Spencer also pleaded his case. The judge sentenced Brandon Spencer to 40 years to life in prison for the 4 counts of attempted murder.
Amen.
When Spencer heard his sentence, this was his reaction. However, while Spencer's behavior raised eyebrows.
Do you think slamming his head on the desk was gonna make the sentence like lighter or like reduce the years he has to spend in prison, bro? Literally, they're gonna have to start smashing dudes, but that's how long they're gonna be in prison for, bro.
Compared to the explosive actions of 15-year-old Conrad Schaefer during their trial.
This was a 15-year-old who was out semi-automatic rifle shooting up.
Schaefer shocked Osceola County when he and his friends began randomly shooting at the residence.
What?
Resulting in the tragic death of 17-year-old David Guerrero, who was on his way to work. Before the shootings,
it's always
Schaefer
an
had
innocent
persuaded his
dude,
father
bro.
to purchase a .45 caliber high-point carbine and 100 rounds of ammunition. He allegedly took the gun from his house while his father was asleep, marking the beginning of the neighborhood's nightmare. Conrad Schaefer and 3 of his friends, David Damas, Victoria Rios, and Juan Muriel, terrorized the community.
Bro, is that a Mexican Caucasian hybrid, bro? What was that, bro? What the hell is that? With dreads? How?
Weeks. They even invaded 22-year-old Eric Rupnarin's home and fatally shot him. During his trial, Schaefer had this to say to the families of the victims.
15 at a time, I'm really sorry for the things I've done. And I know I did wrong, and I know my apologies don't mean nothing to you. And I know it ain't gonna change how you feel about me.
Families of Eric Rupnarin also seem to agree.
Eric was my grandson. He was my helper to me and my wife. At this time, my family and I had no intention to forgive the guilty because of such a heinous and brutal crime that was done to my grandson, Eric Rupnarin.
Schaefer eventually pleaded guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder, with over 22 incidents of gunfire damaging homes and vehicles. He was sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences, with the judge stating that if Schaefer had been just 3 years older, he would have received the death penalty. However, Conrad Schaefer isn't alone in their courtroom actions. Let's not forget the infamous incident involving 15-year-old Martise Fuller, who's facing charges including murder in Kenosha County, Wisconsin.
I stopped in my doorway and I looked at him and I said, "Oh my God, Martise." I said, "Please, you don't have to do this." And he looked at me and he said, "Yes, I do."
What?
Fuller broke into his ex-girlfriend's house with a handgun and fatally shot his ex-girlfriend in her bedroom while she was listening to music. Her mother, who rushed to the scene upon hearing the gun.
Only simps do this, bro, because they feel like they can never get another girl again, bro. Only simp losers do this, bro. If you're one of these dudes and you may not know it yet, trust me, there's so many girls out there that will literally love and care about you, bro. Trust me. You do not have to end another girl's life because she broke up with you, bro. I promise you, bro. Everyone's been heartbroken. You're not the only one, bro. You can find another baddie, bro. It's not that hard. There's so many baddies out there, bro. Latina, mixed, white, black, freaking Arab, Czechoslovakian. Yes, they're all bad, bro. You can find another one, bro. You don't have to go shoot her while she's making music, bro.
Confronted the assailant and was shot twice, but survived. During the trial, he showed little emotion. Fuller pleaded not guilty, but the jury ultimately found him guilty on 3 counts.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree intentional homicide.
At his sentencing, Fuller, perhaps for the first time in the courtroom, displayed some emotion. However, he continued to assert his innocence and delivered a statement through his attorney expressing his apologies to the family.
Mr. Fuller's prepared a statement that he asked that I read on his behalf. Martise writes, "Wholeheartedly, I wanted to write this giving my sincerest apologies to this family I once shared time and love with. Truthfully, I am sorry about the pain you've all suffered through this, but more importantly, the loss of my ex-girlfriend Kaylee that I loved too. So I am sorry. Despite the hatred that is against me, I still am sorry. But I have to continue to stand innocent because I am. And I know that I've barely showed emotion throughout my time, but in all honesty, it is because it's hard to have tears left to cry knowing my mom lost a son, one of her children too. But I am sorry, and I hope you all can eventually see in your hearts and vision that I am not the person the media has made me out to be."
The judge, however, wasn't convinced that Fuller could do better in the future.
Of course not.
You are a very dangerous and a damaged human being.
Yes.
So in the interest of protecting the public, acknowledging the seriousness of these acts, the court orders that on count 1, you are sentenced to life in prison without eligibility for extended supervision.
No.
Despite
that just gave me chills again.
Sentence, Fuller appeared largely unaffected. However, as we saw Fuller's unconcern with his sentence, It brings to mind the strikingly similar response of Jennifer Mee.
When I walked off, I was to the corner. I heard the first gunshot. After the first gunshot, I ran.
At 15, Jennifer Mee became popular as the Hiccup Girl due to her sudden bout of uncontrollable hiccups. She even appeared on shows and events. Eventually, she was cured, and her popularity ended. But Jennifer wasn't satisfied. She needed the fame. So she and her boyfriend, Lamont Newton, and another friend, Lauren Rayford, set up a robbery with victims she had met online. The trio lured a 22-year-old man to a vacant home where they robbed and fatally shot him, taking $50 as the reward.
What?
Jennifer's offenses weren't...
Imagine you losing your life over $50, bro. Nah, bro. No. But why would they try and meet up with mid? Why would that guy try and meet up with straight mid, bro?
Court will leave you dumbfounded. At 19 years old, she was arrested on charges of first-degree murder. During her trial, this recorded call she made to her mother while in detention was played for the jury.
Hello? Hi, Mama. Hello, Jennifer. What's going on? I'm in jail. Why are you in jail? From, murder in the first degree. Who'd you kill? I didn't kill nobody. It all went wrong, Mama. Who are you trying to kill, Jennifer? Nobody. It wasn't even supposed to happen like that, Mom.
Jennifer was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Jennifer's co-defendants, Rayford and Newton, were also sentenced to life imprisonment for their roles in the murder. However, when emotions run high in court, the actions of Jennifer Mee and Alyssa Bustamante leave us questioning
she looks scary.
itself.
Was her throat cut? And Alyssa said yes. And that's when the grandmother broke down and began crying.
Alyssa Bustamante was a troubled 15-year-old girl who lived with her grandparents and siblings in St. Martins, Missouri. On October 21, 2009, Bustamante lured her 9-year-old neighbor, Elizabeth Olton, into the woods behind her house. She strangled, stabbed, and slit the throat of the innocent girl, then buried her in a pre-dug grave.
I just wonder what it would be like just to kill someone. See the life just drain out of someone. I wonder.
She then went to a church dance as if nothing had happened.
Bro, she reminds me of that one girl from My Hero Academia, the one that likes to suck on blood, bro. Like, she's straight. She looks just like her, like literally just like her, bro.
Thought Bustamante's crimes were reprehensible. Brace yourself for her shocking conduct during the proceedings. The police found Olton's body 2 days later after Bustamante confessed to the murder. She was arrested and charged with first-degree murder and armed criminal action. She pleaded guilty to a reduced charge of second-degree murder in exchange for avoiding a trial and a possible life sentence without parole. At her sentencing hearing, Bustamante apologized to Olson's family and said she regretted her actions. However, the judge was not moved by her remorse and sentenced her to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 35 years. She will be eligible for release in 2054 when she will be 60 years old. However, let's compare the jaw-dropping reaction of Bustamante to the astonishing
your whole life is gone, bro.
Nicholas Cruz.
My name is Nick, and I'm going to be the next school shooter of 2018.
Such
My
a
goal
loser,
is
bro.
at least 20 people.
I kind of want to skip this because who cares about this kid, bro? Like, let him be forgotten in history, bro.
High school
Let him
shooting
be
in US
forgotten in history.
Cruz killed 17 people and wounded 17 others at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida on February 14th, 2018.
Oh my God!
He used a semi-automatic rifle that he had legally purchased a year earlier.
I came out and asked him, what are you going to do with the rifle? And the reply was, I go shooting with my friends on the weekends. I just want my own stuff.
Despite the horrifying nature of Cruz's offenses, his actions during sentencing managed to shock everyone present. Cruz was arrested and charged with 17 counts of premeditated first-degree murder and 17 counts of attempted first-degree murder. He pleaded guilty to all the charges, admitting his responsibility for the massacre.
What's going on today, bro?
The demons, man.
Demons?
Police officer calling him
Voices
bro?
and demons?
I mean, maybe he's trying to just...
Where am I? Holy what happened? Shut
up. Forget that comment about like the police. He's trying to like get some information out of him. I forgot. They have to like kind of like play coy. But now he was acting as if he was trying to like be insane so he can plead insanity and get like a light sentence, bro. Like they're so like kid's stupid, bro.
To recommend the death penalty for Cruz. As a result, he was automatically sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for each of the 17 murders, as required by Florida law. He was also sentenced to an additional 34 life sentences for the attempted murders.
Jesus
At his
Christ.
sentencing, Cruz attempted an apology.
I am very sorry for
Look
what
how
I did.
skinny
I
and
have to live
frail
with it
this
every day.
loser is, bro.
And that if I were to get a second chance, I will do everything in my power to try to help others. And I am doing this for you, and I do not care if you do not believe me. And I love you, and I know you don't believe me, but I have to live with this every day.
Cruz showed no remorse or empathy for his actions,
frail
and instead
loser.
wore a red prison jumpsuit, glasses, and a mask. He even laughed at one point during the proceedings. Cruz's lack of emotion and his escape from the death penalty outraged and disappointed many of the victims' relatives who had hoped for a different outcome. However, while it was clear that Cruz didn't care about the years he was going to spend in jail, his behavior in court was very different to that of 19-year-old Keandra Cook, a high school student who used a dating app to set up a robbery scheme with her boyfriend, Kendrick Bass. Cook lured Perry Knight up.
All right, bro. Who's falling for this, bro? I ain't gonna lie, bro. You must be like atrociously down bad, like bad to fall for this, bro. Like, ain't no way, bro.
Palm Coast man to a secluded spot in South Daytona, where Bass and others attacked him and his friend, Emmanuel Purcell, who had accompanied him. Bass shot Purcell in the chest, but luckily he survived. However, what Cook did in the courtroom was even crazier. Cook was arrested and charged with principal to carjacking with a deadly weapon and principal to aggravated battery with a deadly weapon.
Guilty of all three charges, sentence you to 20 years in state prison.
Well, your daughter's evil, bro.
Cook was later allowed to withdraw her plea and cooperate with the state to testify against Bass, who was also charged with attempted murder.
Oh, thank God the guy didn't die,
She entered a new plea deal and received a reduced sentence of 11 years in prison,
She got
20
lucky.
years of probation.
She got lucky.
I think you got potential. Don't lose sight of that.
She apologized to the victims and their families.
I just want to say that
Attempted murder?
My boyfriend and his friends get me to do this.
However, this wasn't the only time a convict freaked out during their sentencing. Take, for example, the case of 18-year-old Donta Wright, a teenager who was involved in the murder of Jordan Klee, a high school student and athlete in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Wright and two other youths planned to rob Klee of his drugs, clothes, and shoes, but Klee fought back. Wright then shot him in the back of the head, killing him instantly. Just when you thought Wright couldn't sink any lower, his behavior in the courtroom will leave you stunned. Wright was arrested and charged with felony murder, armed robbery, conspiracy to commit armed robbery, and felony firearm possession. The family of the victim read a very emotional victim impact statement. But this is how serious Wright felt about their pain.
Sincerely hope that whatever it was you wanted so badly that you felt the need to murder my son was worth the next at least 52 years of your continued existence. You won't get the luxury of raising your child because you took mine away.
When he was called to address the court, Wright shocked everyone.
I'll tell y'all I'll be home soon, or I'll be Keon. I love my family.
That's all you got to say.
Wright showed no remorse or empathy for his actions. His attitude in court shocked and angered the judge and the victim's family. The judge reserved some choice words for him.
I'm very tempted to just say I'm not going to accept this sentence agreement. We'll go to trial, and if you're convicted of felony murder, you'll go to prison for the rest of your life. That means you'll die there. That's what I'm tempted to do.
Wright was eventually sentenced to 25 to 52 years in prison for his role in the murder.
Come on.
He told me to hit her. I didn't want to, but I didn't want him hitting me, so I hit her.
It's nothing compared to the explosive actions of 13-year-old Antonio Barbo and 14-year-old Nathan Pop during their trial.
She said that she's going to have to call Antonio's mom, and Antonio kept looking at me, and then he hit her in the head.
In September 2012, Antonio and Nathan conspired to and brutally murdered Antonio's great-grandmother, 76-year-old Barbara Olson. The kids bludgeoned her to death using a hammer and a hatchet, then stole her purse. What's even more chilling is that after committing this heinous crime, they used part of the stolen money to buy marijuana and pizza.
We were going to try to scare her to get money and then use force if needed.
When you say use force if needed, was there a discussion about what type of force you might use?
An attack, I guess, to...
During the legal proceedings, Antonio Barbo changed his plea from not guilty by reason of mental illness or defect to no contest. reaching an agreement with the prosecution. However, he was very remorseful.
I know I don't show my emotions much, and I myself am not sure why. But that doesn't mean I don't.
Nathan Pop also had some things to let off his chest.
I just want to say that I'm truly sorry for everything that happened.
However, despite his plea and expressions of remorse, he and Nathan were sentenced to life imprisonment.
I was gonna say, like, how does, like, you wanting to buy weed and pizza lead to you, like, ending your great-grandmother's life? Like, what?
Both remorseful as they left the court. However, just when you thought you'd seen it all, another convict surpasses Antonio and Nathan's wild courtroom display.
As I approached, I got closer. I saw her really sniffing at a particular area. So I pulled her back, and when I looked, kind of second-guessed myself. I thought I saw a dead body, but I wasn't too sure because, it was missing some limbs.
Enter 18-year-old Matthew Borges, who is facing a murder charge for the beheading of 16-year-old Lee Valoria Paulino in December 2016. Borges and Paulino were students at Lawrence High School and had reportedly smoked marijuana together in November 2016, which was the last time Paulino was seen alive. Paulino's body was discovered by a dog walker near the Merrimack River 2 weeks after he went missing.
Jesus
the details
Christ.
of the scene were chilling. Listen as the dog walker explained what he saw.
As I approached, I got closer. I saw her really sniffing at a particular area. So I pulled her back, and when I looked, kind of second-guessed myself. I thought I saw a dead body, but I wasn't too sure because, it was missing some limbs.
At first, Borges was not considered a suspect, but the tide of evidence began pointing unmistakably in his direction. During the trial, the prosecutor, Jay Gabito, argued that there was an overwhelming amount of evidence incriminating Borges. The allegations against Borges were disturbing. It was suggested that he had stabbed Paulino multiple times before decapitating him. When the verdict was delivered, Borges displayed an eerie lack of emotion.
That the defendant, Matthew Borges, is guilty on the charge of first-degree murder.
Eventually, he was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life imprisonment, with the possibility of parole only after serving 30 years.
Jesus.
However shocking Borges' reaction to his sentence was, how does it compare to the reaction of 16-year-old Dylan Schumacher, who was in Buffalo, New York courthouse?
I am a 16-year-old blonde. Probably all I have to do is cry in front of the jury, and they're going to feel sorry for me.
On charges of second-degree murder. In March 2013, Schumacher was babysitting his 18-year-old girlfriend's child while she went to work. He was inside a Springvale home shared with his parents. Tragically, that evening, Schumacher beat the 23-month-old Austin to death. Following this horrifying incident, Schumacher was arrested and charged with the murder of the toddler, along with child abuse charges. Schumacher claimed he didn't intend to harm the child or cause his death, stating that he was trying to get the child to stop crying.
At 16, you knew not to keep pounding your fist on that pillow with that little baby's head.
Jesus Christ.
That little boy had to be terrified. Probably he had a hard time breathing, and then you repeatedly punched him so hard as to cause his death by bleeding on the brain.
If you thought Schumacher would be remorseful for his crimes, you're wrong. As Schumacher entered the courtroom for his sentencing, he couldn't even get settled behind the defense table before breaking into tears. That's right, Schumacher expressed how sorry he was for his actions.
I take back what was done. I wish I could. I would give my life for Austin.
However, it was all an act, and the judge wasn't fooled. The judge pointed out a recorded phone call between Schumacher and his mother.
The record will show that you admitted that on July 23rd, 2013, in a phone call to your mother from the holding center, you stated, and I got a quote from the court reporter, I am a 16-year-old blonde. Probably all I have to do is cry in front of the jury, and they're going to feel sorry for me.
Despite his second attempt at an apology, Schumacher was handed the maximum punishment of 25 years to life in prison. However, this sentence was later modified to 18 years to life. However, while some may attribute Schumacher's reaction to juvenile delinquency, this is 18-year-old Shondell Jackson.
What just happened? Yo, why is he
facing
chimping
charges
out?
of murder in the Milwaukee County Courthouse.
Everyone just
Jackson and
murdering,
his friend were out to rob when they crossed paths with 21-year-old Nathan Potter, a University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee college student, heading to his apartment. The friends approached Potter, demanding money, but Potter was only a student and had no money. When Jackson realized Potter had no cash to offer, he shot him, killing him. After the murder, Jackson fled to Mississippi, but was ultimately arrested, thanks to a tip from his uncle.
You don't have enough time to think about a whole lot of things now, because you just can't take nobody's life. You know, that's just wrong.
As if killing someone at 18 was not outrageous enough, Jackson's actions in court were even more dramatic. During his trial, Jackson's actions in the courtroom drew attention. Here, Jackson is gesturing towards the victim's family, totally unremorseful about his actions. Jackson was quickly escorted out of the courtroom, but as he was leaving, Jackson flashed a disturbing smile toward the grieving family. Now, at his sentencing, Jackson's mother had an opportunity to address the court.
When I saw it on the news, I even cried. I'm like, oh my God, I can't imagine what that mother is going through. I never had a clue that my child had anything to do with it. My son is not a monster.
He is a monster.
He is not a monster.
When Jackson was given the opportunity to speak, Jackson surprised everyone.
Apologize for my behaviors. Please don't take my life from me.
Oh, now you want to when you backed up in the corner.
To save himself, Jackson pleaded for leniency and offered an apology for his actions. Now it is time for the judge to deliver his sentence.
The need to protect the community, which I also fear for with Mr. Jackson, and I am going to sentence Mr. Jackson to life imprisonment without possibility for extended supervision. I know that that is something that is reserved for the most serious of cases, and
Jackson was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. But when Jackson heard that he would be spending the rest of his life in prison, he couldn't contain his emotions.
Good riddance.
Deputies had to intervene, restraining Jackson as his anger flared. Watch again as Jackson pushed this cop over. Fortunately, this cop was able to wrestle him to the ground, while this officer here unbuckled his pepper spray and put it to work. Amidst the chaos, a member of Jackson's family has a shocking remark for the Potter family. Eventually, Jackson was let out of the court to spend the rest of his life behind bars.
What did
but
the
Nathan
family
Potter's
do? You're
parents
dumb
had a few
son.
things to say.
Our little girl was afraid. She was afraid that he was going to try and kill one of us.
I hope as he spends the rest of his life in jail.
Jackson's friend and accomplice pleaded guilty to acting as the lookout in the crime and received a 12-year sentence. Despite the terrible behavior of Shondell's family in court, the uncle who tipped off the police maintained his stance despite threats. However, this wasn't the only time a convicted kid freaked out during his sentencing.
Your son is the victim and the killer is your granddaughter. Can you talk about that?
Well, she's not my granddaughter.
Take, for example, the case of 16-year-old Sierra Halseth.
She's like a cute little girl.
Aaron
What the
Guerrero,
hell? Where did the evil come that was bred into a soul that murders their own father?
Who are facing multiple charges, including murder with a deadly weapon, arson, robbery with a deadly weapon, conspiracy to conduct robbery, and multiple counts of fraudulent use of credit or debit cards at the Regional Justice Center in Las Vegas. The teenage couple murdered Sierra's father, 45-year-old Daniel Halseth.
What?
They stabbed him over 60 times and attempted to burn his body and house.
What?
Then, they took his debit card and fled to Salt Lake City, indulged themselves, and opened a YouTube channel where they callously shared information like this.
Day 3 after murdering somebody.
Whoa! Don't put that on the camera.
I thought they were so cute. They genuinely thought they were so cute. They're disgusting. Like, they look disgusting. Especially that pig that looks like goddamn fake Mario, bro.
But their parents did not approve of the relationship, forcing them to end it. On April 9th, 2021, Daniel's lifeless body was discovered in the garage of his Las Vegas home. The teenagers were subsequently apprehended in Salt Lake City. Throughout the court proceedings, the behavior of Sierra was starkly different from that of Aaron. Aaron Guerrero seems to be emotionally breaking down. When he was allowed to speak, he had this to say.
I ask for forgiveness as I get sentenced today, and I hope it brings you a little peace.
Meanwhile, Sierra Halseth appeared disinterested, bored, and detached from the gravity of the situation. She claimed that her father had physically abused her.
He locks me in place and starts pushing me and hitting me around.
Eventually, they were both found guilty by District Judge Chiara Jones.
55 days credit for time served. That is a total aggregate sentence of life in Nevada.
Damn.
With the possibility of parole up to 22 years.
Damn.
And ordered to pay $5,000 in restitution. For Sierra's grandmother, a lot has changed.
You're in a tough spot because your son is the victim and the killer is your granddaughter. Can you talk about that?